Hi, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of Hunting Matters, brought to you by the Houston Safari Club Foundation. Hopefully, it's one of your favorite podcasts. I know it's one of ours. This week, I'm joined by my buddy Kevin Ormston. Kevin is a past president of the Houston Safari Club Foundation. He is the currently on the board of directors. Every time you try to get out, they suck you back in.
That's right.
And also, he was in charge of a new committee. That I think was actually, Kevin, it was your brainchild to come up with.
No, somebody else. I can't claim that one. Somebody else came up with it, but I was the first to volunteer to head it.
Yeah. Immediately you were raising your hand. So we're going to talk about that as well. Which, for those of you who may be new to the podcast, we just completed our annual convention. It's a Worldwide Hunting Expo and Convention. It's our largest fundraiser of the year. It runs, we've talked about it before, but if you're new to the podcast, we've run typically Wednesday night through Sunday. And we dodged a bullet this week with the winter weather warnings in San Antonio, Texas, and had a really great convention this year. And so we're all kind of catching our breath from that and trying to catch up on our sleep. But Kevin, let's talk about you a little bit. So you're a native Houstonian. What was life like growing up here, and how early did hunting become a part of your life?
I started hunting. I, of course, grew up here in the Memorial area, live here currently. But I started hunting. I killed my first deer when I was 8 years old.
Wow.
When I was very young, my grandfather and dad had a deer lease, and it was more company focused. They would take customers, but we got to spend a lot of family time there as well. But I learned how to shoot a BB gun at Cactus and, all that kind of thing. And then worked my way up to a 222,
Okay.
which is what I shot my first 8-point with. The ranch manager, this was near Barksdale, Texas, and the ranch manager was a guy named Damon Stotts, and was an older guy, old hill country fella that just, salt of the earth kind of guy. And Dad said, if anybody's going to get you on a deer, it's Damon. So I remember it like it happened yesterday. We were in a blind called the Wigwam, which looked like a igloo, but made out of twigs and bushes and brush, and wasn't a real nice insulated box blind or anything, but it basically just had kind of a hole through the twigs and brush and stuff that looked out over a feeder.
Yeah.
And a number of deer came in. This is hill country, so a lot of deer came in, and a nice enough 8-point came in, and Damon said, "That's the one you need to get."
Was it you and Damon? Was your dad there, or just?
It was just Damon and I. There's only room for two of us in there. And then Dad and them came and picked us up at dark.
Yeah.
Just happy as we could be, and
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So that kind of solidified you were hooked after that.
I was. It wasn't necessarily the hunting was 100% of it. It was being outside, being outdoors.
Yeah.
That I just loved. Like when we would go to the deer lease, man, I just spent all my time outside.
Yeah.
And I think it's the Nueces River the headwaters were not far from where we were. I think that's the correct river but the river was about 100 yards in front of the house. The houses were kind of up on a hill, and you drop down, so we could go fishing. It was there were springs popping out so you could get a cup of water and drink straight out of the spring.
Oh, wow.
It was a lot of fun. And I wasn't ever there during, my grandfather and dad had stories about it flooding through there. And they said you could literally hear it, like when it did flood, it would sound like a train coming, just, and this big wall of water would come by. And there was a couple of times when they had guests and clients and stuff get stuck on the wrong side.
Oh, wow.
And so my grandfather, both of them were in the trucking business. My grandfather ended up having to send trucks out there at one point in time to be able to ferry people back to civilization. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So obviously, I don't know about you. For me as a kid, it was like, I was kind of like, what's the term I want to use? Rite of passage, right to maturity. I kind of like, I'm hanging out with the big guys now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Getting to do that. I know that always meant a lot to me. I mean, when I was younger, my mom was a single mom when I was younger, and so she kind of paired me up with some of the guys in the neighborhood, the men in the neighborhood that hunted, and that was kind of cool. I kind of thought, well, this is cool because I had a mom and a sister, and I was always around them. And then, growing up, then you get to hang out with the guys, and you're like, oh, I'm one of the guys now.
Yeah.
Get that masculinity thing going.
That's exactly right. And I've got kind of a funny story because I was always the youngest on our deer lease. And so we eventually moved on to a deer lease, a family place, with my dad, my brother, and a guy named Dr. Fred Garrett, who's been a mentor and dear friend of mine since I was 9 or 10 years old. His son, Frank, Dr. Boyd, Dr. Garrett's partner. And so we had this deer lease in Medina. And so I was the youngest, but Frank was about 1.5 years, 2 years older than me, Dr. Garrett's son. And we were the designated dishwashers. And so, man, dishpan hands. And so it was funny because we ended up, the guy that owned that ranch passed away, unfortunately, so we moved to a different ranch out in Sonora, Texas. We went to look at it, and we walked, and it had a really nice 3-bedroom house, but we walked in, and when you walk in that house, you walk through the kitchen, and I looked over and I saw an actual dishwasher, and I looked at that, and I told the owner, I was like, we'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Dr. Garrett still talks about that.
That's hilarious.
Capital Farm Credit understands that there's something about the outdoors that pulls you in. Could be the fresh air, the colors, the smells, the animals, the freedom. It's all just a part of who you are. And with our recreational land loans, you can purchase land for whatever outdoor pursuit you please. That way, the outdoors won't just be in your soul, it'll also be in your name. To learn more, visit capitalfarmcredit.com. Together, we're better.
But you guys are kind of also, because I've seen you skin deer. I mean, you skinned thousands of deer in your life.
Probably hundreds, but yeah. It's been a bunch, yeah. So, and on that particular deer lease, it was kind of an unwritten rule. You're expected to kill a couple of doe every year.
Sure.
And so there were some years we'd kill 40 some odd doe, and you could really see it in rut activity, years after that, and how they respond to rattling and that kind of thing. But having said that, I would kill my 2 deer, and my dad was not a big deer hunter. He loved to go. He loved to chase turkeys. That was his deal. And so I would end up killing his doe. So I'd kill, we were on that lease for, 13, 14 years, and you multiply that times 4 deer, and that was just one part of my life.
Yeah, and something kind of strange and that I didn't know about you until a few years ago when we were on a lease together is that you're allergic to deer hair.
Yeah, and I didn't. It really didn't bother me until as I got older. But I can remember in college, my hands would get like so itchy after handling deer, and I just never thought about it. And then we were down capturing does at Kevin Comiskey's ranch and Gus Comiskey's ranch. We were capturing does, and one day, and this is like, I think an October-ish time frame that fall, and we catch 20 doe and we put them in this big 8-acre pen. We catch another 20 doe and put them in this other 8-acre pen and put them in there with a couple of breeder bucks, and we'd worm them and, check them, give them their shots and stuff. And as I was handling those deer with the helicopters going and all the, just all the noise turned way up, I got dust in my eyes, and so I was itching my eyes, and they just flared up, and almost like my eyes were barely open. And I went over to Gus Comiskey, and I said, Mr. Comiskey, I said, I've got something's wrong. And he goes, go take a shower and go lay down and put a cold cloth across your eyes, and just lay down until you feel better and the swelling goes down. And so that's what I did, and that's when it finally I figured out, it's just the deer. I'm allergic to the deer. Yeah. So, and it's gotten, in like high school, it came on a little bit. College was but it was when I was adult, it's like it got worse. Yeah. And so at least I recognize it now. And so when I handle deer, I just use rubber gloves.
Yeah, and that eliminates the problem.
And that helps. Yeah, that totally eliminates it.
Yeah, that's crazy because I know how much you love to deer hunt to have that allergy. But the eating deer meat doesn't affect you at all.
Oh, no.
It's just the hair.
No, I'm not about to let that slow me down either.
So obviously you and all the men in your life have hunted. Tell our audience a little bit about how you have passed on those traditions to your own family.
So I've got 2 daughters. Both are in college now, but growing up, I would take them hunting with me. And they've killed some really nice stuff over the years. They would go on deer lease trips with me, and I took them to Africa one time. And I always made it fun. And so I never put pressure on them to shoot.
Yeah.
You know, even like at the moment of truth, deer, pig, whatever's out there in front of us, gun out the window, you know, while we're still getting situated, like, hey, look, you know, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like, no, Dad, I want to do it. You know, it's like, okay. I would leave it up to them. So I never pressed them to do it. I loved having them there, but when it came down to pulling the trigger,
Yeah.
I never thought never put too much pressure on them at all. And so, but having grown up and hunting the way I did, and, you know, pretty consistently always having the opportunity, you know, to go hunting with my older brother or my dad, it was just always important to me to pass that on.
Yeah.
I just feel like you create some really good bonding with your children. And so at one point, Kayla was the one really pulling the trigger. She's my older daughter. And we were at the DSC show in Dallas, and Gary Broach was there from Rhodes Brothers Taxidermy out in Kerrville. And I'd gotten to know him. Her first animal she killed at the patio ranch, she killed a gold medal fallow, really nice fallow. She was in 4th or 5th grade, shot it at 90 yards off of sticks.
Wow.
With a .243. And so I asked the manager there, I was like, hey, you know, do you recommend anybody in Kerrville? He goes, yeah, go see Gary. So I dropped him off and go. Gary and I became friends as a result. And then in hunting and in that area, if Kayla killed something, it's such an easy exit right there off of I-10. Go to Gary's, drop it off, calls me whenever it's ready. I'll pick it up on the next trip to the deer lease, what have you.
Yeah.
So he'd done a skull mount, a whitetail, and a couple other things. And so when I saw him at DSE, this is probably 10 years ago now, my wife Cheryl was with me. And so when I said, hey, Gary, how you doing? He's like, hey, man, how are you? I'm good. I was like, hey, and I looked at Cheryl. I was like, hey, I want you to meet Kayla's taxidermist. Because at that point, he'd already done way more for her than he'd done for me.
Yeah.
Hunting Matters is presented by Copandero Indoor Archery Pistol and Rifle Range, your premier indoor archery pistol and rifle shooting destination. Located in Oak Ridge North, right next to the Woodlands, Copandero offers 2 25-yard pistol ranges, a 100-yard rifle range, and a 25-yard archery range. Whether you're honing your skills or just starting, Copandero has everything you need, including rentals, classes, a retail store, an in-house cafe, and a VIP lounge. Join Copandero today for an unmatched shooting experience. To learn more, go to copandero.com.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Were there any lessons kind of that you had in your mind or that kind of came organically as you were hunting with your girls that you were kind of trying to impart on them, other than the obvious ones, you know, gun safety and shot selection, that sort of thing, but just in general about the outdoors, kind of lessons and things that you were trying to instill in them as not only as part of their hunting life, but as part of everyday living?
Yeah, I would, you know, you mentioned it, but already the first thing that comes to mind is gun safety.
Sure.
Always having the gun unloaded until you are settled in the blind. You know, you've got everything situated where you want it to be. You're not going to be moving around a bunch. Then you load the gun, and then you're ready to go. That would probably be, as far as that's probably the top priority, just handling guns and having them not be afraid of them, just make them aware, like, hey, this is a deadly weapon. I did have a good friend of mine was killed in a hunting accident in 2004, right a few months after Kayla was born. It was just a tragic deal. But that's probably the biggest one. But other than that, you know, being out in nature, it's, you know, you hunt in these places. There could be snakes. I haven't run across a whole lot of snakes in my life, but I have. One time, Kayla and I were stalking a deer that was bedded down right along a fence line. So it was so far away, we were able to use the other side of the fence as cover to get up close to him. And we got up about 100 yards from him, and here's a king snake right in front of us. I mean, from me to you almost.
Yeah.
And I looked around, and I was like, oh, no, she's going to freak out. I was like, just relax. It's non-venomous, but there's a snake right over here. Yeah. She was like, she about swallowed her tongue. She's like, she wanted to scream some. I was like,
Yeah.
it's okay. That's the good kind.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's just being careful out there is the main thing. Watch your step, gun safety, and have fun with it.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
Did you get that deer?
No, we ended up not getting, in the end, because we really needed to get a shot kind of through it was an internal fence.
Right.
And so we needed to get really kind of on his side and ended up not, when he did stand up, he didn't stick around. He just went the other way, and it just didn't, it's one of those stalks that just didn't work out.
Right. How did those early experiences in your life, talking about, hunting with your family, how did they shape your, when you're young, you don't think about conservation and herd management and that sort of thing. But as you get older and you start doing longer, get involved with organizations and start studying more about hunting and conservation, how did those early days, maybe from your dad's perspective and your family's perspective, imparting lessons from you, how do they shape your outlook on conservation and your views on conservation as it relates to hunting?
Well, I can tell you kind of what comes to mind, and my first lesson in conservation was more from a fishing perspective. And we had a pond at this deer lease we had once upon a time in Medina, Texas, or near Medina. And it was probably when it was full, it was probably 3 or 4 acres. It wasn't huge, if it was even that big. Mm-hmm. It wasn't square. It was kind of, odd shape because of the hill country. But we, the first year or two, we would go, work weekend in September. We'd try to shoot some dove. We'd fill feeders, clean out the blinds, and get them ready for November. And, but in that pond, man, it had great bass. And they loved worms. They loved anything you threw at them because they'd never seen anything.
Right.
And so, then we'd catch a bunch of fish. We'd we'd have a big fry that night, and it didn't take long. We didn't have any more fish, or decent sized ones.
Yeah.
And I was like, at the time I'd never heard of catch and release. No one else had either, really. And nobody spoke about it either. So I was like, we kind of fished it out, and so we quit fishing it.
Yeah.
And let it recover.
Yeah.
And so that was probably my first real world experience with like, hey, you can't be greedy. You either got to, keep one or whatever, but put them back what you don't need, obviously,
Sure.
And don't overfish it. And so kind of the same rule applies with the does.
Yeah.
And I think, early as far as conservation goes and herd management, the old, the generation before me, maybe even 2 generations, they didn't like to shoot does. Those old ranchers didn't like to shoot does.
Yep.
Because they looked at them kind of like cows,
Yeah.
And so that was a mindset that, because I kind of grew up in that world, I had to kind of figure out, okay, well, yeah. And then sure enough, when we moved from Medina to Sonora and we started knocking down a lot of does, man, the bucks got better. We'd let them age. We would have matures only, and we didn't have a whole lot of hard and fast rules, but it really showed. It made a difference. There was just from having I would call it 1-to-1 ratio once upon a time on that particular ranch, and man, when you would rattle, you would get a response.
Yeah.
You could get, there's the rut, and then there's the peak of the rut.
Yeah.
It was always around Thanksgiving, and there was one day. I'd killed a nice deer in bow season, so I was for my trophy. I was done for the year. And then rifle season came around. I went anyway just to have fun. And the day after Thanksgiving, in probably 1990 or maybe 91, somewhere in those years, Dr. Garrett hadn't killed a deer, so he and I went out on foot in this one big pasture of the ranch, and I rattled for him, and we rattled up 13 different bucks one morning.
Wow. Starting
at daylight to about 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you could hear them coming before you could see them.
Yeah.
You hear those hooves, and man, we had fun with it. We didn't shoot one that day. We saw some good ones, just nothing major. But we had some good ones come in, and there was one that we were on site, there's a lot of cedar out there, but big cedar bush, and this deer was coming from the other side. He was probably 20 yards away, and he was trying to figure us out, what was going on the other side of that bush. And I grabbed the rattling horns and I held him up above the cedar like this, and he went, you could just see the expression in his body language. and then I pulled them down, and then I poked them out the side, and then I rotated them. Man, we sat there and messed with them for 3 or 4 minutes. It was fun.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So for people who may not know what rattling is, kind of give us a 101 rattling.
So when you're rattling, quote unquote, rattling deer, they make man-made horns,
Yeah,
or you can use actual antlers
Right.
that came off it, and you clink them together, either slam them together, barely touch them, just depends on what they're kind of responding to. But the horns are clashing with each other,
Right.
and it mimics two bucks fighting over a doe. So if there's a dominant buck in the area, he hears two bucks fighting. The thought is that, hey, he's going to come see what's going on and see if there's a hot doe in the area.
Right. And let me show him who's boss.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are you looking for an investment that goes beyond the ordinary? Wildlife Partners is the nation's leader in breeding and consulting for the exotic wildlife industry. When you invest in wildlife, you're not just acquiring a 100% tax-deductible asset, you're playing a vital role in the conservation of endangered species. Do you own land? You can turn your ranch into a profitable wildlife-driven business. And even if you don't own land, that's no problem. Wildlife Partners offers unique opportunities for non-landowners to invest in conservation while enjoying significant tax benefits and potential cash flow.
Now you've hunted quite a bit in Mexico too, hadn't you?
Yes. Once upon a time, I had a deer lease over there in Mexico, and that was in the early 2000s for a few years. The hunting was excellent. The deer were, I killed what I called the world's largest 7-point. He had 40 some odd inches of mass. Won a Los Cazadores jacket with him for Mr. Heavy.
Oh, wow.
And they lumped in Mexico back then with South Texas. And but anyway, at one point I've got video of him nudging the feeder on the back of my Jeep while I'm in the high rack of the Jeep filming straight down.
He's right down there.
He was right, and the old cameras, you could tilt the
Right.
viewfinder. So I'm just looking at him and I'm pointing straight down. And I didn't know what to do with him at first. And then I came home back to Houston, and on my neck, I was like, you know what, he was an older deer for sure. I think he dressed at like 230 pounds.
Wow.
But I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go after that deer next time down. And boy, the next time I went down, my brother-in-law Mike was with me, and we ended up finding him. And the rut, he had dramatically dropped weight.
Yeah.
I bet he lost 40 pounds or more.
Really.
Because he came back. Well, we finally found him, and I recognized the rack, but I didn't recognize him.
Yeah.
And so I was like, no, that's him. I was like, he's just been running does hard for weeks, I guess.
Yeah.
And he had dropped a ton of weight. They just quit eating, and all they think about is does.
Yeah. I think that's one of the it was one of my hardest lessons to learn. I think it's a hard lesson to learn for novice to kind of intermediate hunters, especially, you get a bunch of people, let's say it's on a deer leash, you get a bunch of people together, like, you kind of want to let them age, you kind of want to let them get to be 5.5 if you can, and that sort of thing. And don't only just look at the horns, because sometimes you'll see a 3-year-old deer with a giant, a rack on them, but they're just not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
So you try to teach people body size, but to your point, you see a deer and then you see another deer, that same deer 2 weeks later, and it could look like, unless you really are familiar with them and intimate with them and know the horns, their body just look totally different.
Yeah.
They don't have the brisket in the gut and the things like that because they've run all that weight off because all they're doing is chasing does.
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the hardest lessons for hunters to learn is how to age deer on the hoof.
Yeah, and I think specifically here in Texas, and pretty much anybody who's hunted South Texas and hill country will tell you the same. A South Texas buck, they're just different vegetation. They're just a bigger deer in general. They're easier to age than a hill country deer for sure.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it. They're just the hill. When you see an old hill country deer, man, that's an old deer. That is definitely an old deer.
Yeah.
And you kind of know it when you see it. But in South Texas, you can tell when they're 5.5 or 6.5.
Right.
It's but in the hill country, sometimes 3.5 to 5.5 look almost exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw one last year. It was 3.5. I wanted to shoot so bad just because of the rack on it. I'm like, I know he's not there yet. And it was before the rut, so I knew he hadn't dropped a bunch of weight yet. But yeah, it's tough. I agree with you. I think aging deer in the hill country is much harder than South Texas.
Mm-hmm.
By far.
Hunting Matters is presented by DEA Ranch. Are you looking for the ultimate South Texas hunting experience? Then look no further than DEA Ranch. DEA Ranch offers some of the best whitetail and exotic game hunts in South Texas year-round. Whether you're looking to fill your freezer or put that next hunting memory on the wall, their professional guides are focused on ensuring each client has a memorable and exciting hunting experience. DEA Ranch offers guided hunts, professional staff, chef-prepared meals, trophy preparation, and more. To learn more, go to dearanch.com. That's dearanch.com.
Let's switch gears a little bit. So you obviously got to pay for this deer hunting and taxidermy bill and the traveling. So tell the folks what you do for a living. You're the owner of Rummel Creek Builders and Rummel Creek Pools. How did you get into the construction industry?
So I, at one point in time, I worked for Enron as a technical recruiter in Enron Broadband Services, and was walked out of the Enron building with everybody else with my personal stuff in a box one day, and just needed to try to find something. I didn't really like what I was doing in recruiting. I liked being at Enron. It was a lot of fun. I mean, who didn't? It was like a Roman holiday. But when I got let go with everybody else, I actually just went hunting. It was December. We're right on top of Christmas. It was a couple weeks away. So we had a deer lease in South Texas. I hunted one of the Maffridge ranches at the time, and I killed a nice 10-point. And I actually got him mounted, and I call him the unemployment buck.
Okay. And
so now he's hanging in Good Company Kitchen and Cantina right over here on I-10. But I went to network with my CPA.
Okay.
And so this was, still December, but right before Christmas. And it was an older guy named Mr. McKee. And man, he had a lot of small business owners and stuff that he was, had for clients. And so I told him, I said, Mr. McKee, what I really want to do is something on my own, but I didn't have any money to do it with, And I said, what I'd like to try to find maybe an older gentleman or older guy that doesn't have a succession plan for his business. Either his kids aren't interested in taking it over one day, or maybe he doesn't have children or whatever to pass it on to. And the idea was I would go to work for him, for however many years it took, and buy him out a little bit at a time. That was my game plan.
Sure.
And I did talk to a couple different people, and it never panned out. And in the end, Mr. McKee called me a couple months later. He said, Kevin, he goes, man, I think I found a good lead for you. And I was like, oh yeah, what's that? He's like, he had another client that was the general counsel for Perry Homes. And so a guy named John Krug. So I called Mr. Krug, and he put me in touch with their HR lady who did all the hiring and interviewing and stuff. And so I went and talked to her, and Perry Homes I don't know what they're like today, but they had a very stringent hiring number of steps to the interview. You'd have to go talk to guys in the field at their construction office, and had to take a personality test to make sure you weren't going to freak out on a homeowner. His homeowners can be tough to deal with, right?
Sure.
But ended up going to work for Perry Homes, and was back downtown, not far from the Enron building, building townhomes. And so they really wanted you to have a college degree and management experience. And so they really didn't want you to have experience in building. And so they taught you, a guy named Ron Rohrbacher, who's one of the best teachers that I have probably ever had. He, there's a 2-week formal training, and then the rest of it was in the field. And they just kind of brought you along slowly.
Yeah.
You started off as what they call a second assistant, and the worst thing you could do in that role would put the wrong carpet in a house. And once you got your feet under you and started understanding, they would teach you how to put a foundation in. They teach you the framing aspects and that kind of thing, and the roofing and cornice and all the other aspects of it. And so once they started to trust you, they'd kind of hold your hand through it. And then once your feet were up under you, then they'd cut you loose, and you'd be a first assistant. So and there's some money differences there between second and first. And then when they felt, they were comfortable enough with you doing numbers and managing a whole project that you could get your own neighborhood.
So
And
at that point, you become a project manager? type?
yeah, then you're a project manager for them.
Okay.
Yeah, and once upon a time, I had a project over in, by the time I got promoted a couple of times, I had a project over in Baytown. They had gone into a market over there, and we built a bunch of homes in Baytown. And then in the end, I ended up leaving that position for a different developer and builder here in town called In-Town Homes. And at In-Town Homes, when we had a pool to be built or a clubhouse or any of these other neighborhoods, that for whatever reason, that always ended up in my basket of responsibility. So that's where I learned how to build a pool, and that was a long time ago. But on the Rummel Creek Builder side, when I was remodeling a lot of homes up and down the bayou here in the Memorial area after the flood of Hurricane Harvey, one of my clients asked me to if I could refer her to somebody to remodel her pool. So ended up, I was like, well, I can do it. She wanted lights, new plaster, new decking, just a whole refresh. And I said, well, I can do that. So I did that for her. Then her daughter was building a big fancy home, wanted a pool, built her pool. Then a buddy of mine in the neighborhood was like, hey, man, I heard you're building so-and-so's pool. We just got a bid from somebody. You come take a look at what we're wanting to do? I said, sure. And this is a friend of mine I'd known for several years. Our daughters grew up together. So I ended up building their new pool. And then having all my friends that I worked with either at Perry Homes or in town, I've got a number of guys we all maintained. You know, it's kind of like when you're in the trenches together.
Right.
So a lot of those guys have become good referrals for me and or clients.
Yeah.
And so that's been a huge leg up. And so on my home building side, you know, which is mostly remodel, you know, I do maybe one or two a year. And it's really kind of for friends and family. I really don't market it that much because I've gotten so busy with the pools. And those are new and remodel, you know, renovating older pools, which is what you have a lot of in the Memorial area.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to imagine an emergency on a hunting trip, but when the unexpected happens, you want the team of medical and security experts at Global Rescue to be there for you. Global Rescue Operations Centers are staffed by experienced personnel, and you'll always speak to an expert on the first call. Global Rescue provides unparalleled capabilities to transport members to the hospital of their choice, not just the closest. So trade what-ifs for peace of mind with convenient travel services designed for the unexpected. Learn more at globalrescue.com/huntingmatters.
Yeah, renovations, pools. How long does something, I mean, I know everybody's pool is different, shape, sizes, and they want different tiles, stuff like that. How much does a reno on a pool usually, how long does that usually take?
A pool renovation?
Yeah.
You know, if you're doing, you know, if you're not adding a hot tub and that kind of stuff, if you're just doing a straight refresh, you know, a month,
Yeah.
something like that.
Do you run pretty big crews all over the different job sites, or?
I usually have the same trades for every job.
Okay.
Where we get bogged down is, you know, at tile and coping stage. And so I have to be kind of careful. So my tile and coping guy is the best guy in the city, I think. You know, I'll let them know, like, hey, we got this one starting next week, but I've got one right after that. And then that third one might be right on top of that. So he's able to kind of shift and, you know, bring in extra guys also if he needs to.
Yeah.
But, you know, the detail work on a lot of the tile jobs on these things are a little bit time consuming. So it helps him manage. I try to just give him as much lead time as I can.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it hard to find, you know, laborers these days? Or, I mean, you always hear in the news people are less willing to work now, you know.
You know, finding them, no, you can find, they're out there.
Yeah.
You know, if I, for example, if I lost my tile guy, you know, one of the first places I would go try to find one is my tile vendors.
Right.
Hey, who do you recommend?
Right.
Matter of fact, before I got here today, I had a guy knock on my office door, and he dropped off a card, and his company kind of does soup to nuts. They do everything from dig, steel, gunite to tile to everything. So, you know, people like that drop in and drop off cards too. So the hard part is, you know, actually using them.
Yeah.
When you have a new guy or new person or new trade, because, you know, I've got a good name in the business, and I don't want to mess that up.
Sure.
So, and if somebody does a bad tile job, you see it. It's like a bad paint job.
Yeah.
It's just not, you can't help but look at it.
Right.
And so, they go in with lasers. They make sure things are flat and even, and man, they're really good.
What's the weirdest request you've ever had that you can talk about publicly on a reno or a pool or construction? Have you had any kind of, you went home that night and kind of went, how am I going to do this?
Nothing comes to mind. No ski ropes hanging from the ceiling or anything. Nothing like that.
No stripper poles being
No
installed on the
brass
pool.
poles. Yeah, I need to bolster this wall. Or, what I will say is with my background in the hunting world and taxidermy, if by chance I have a client that's a hunter and has a lot of taxidermy to do, I know how to build the wall that can handle the different animals.
Yeah.
So like for my own house, when Cheryl and I remodeled kind of the middle portion of our house, living room, dining room, I raised the ceilings, and then in our living room, I sheathed the whole thing with 3/4 inch plywood before we sheetrocked.
Yeah.
So, because I knew one day I would have a buffalo, I would have some heavier,
Yeah.
and man, you can on a 3/4 inch plywood, other than maybe a moose or something like that, man, we put a lag bolt, didn't even hit a stud, but it went in super tight.
Yeah.
And we hung him, and he's good.
The lesson I learned from house buying is that if you're a family that has taxidermy, you definitely need to evaluate the wall-to-window ratio in your house. Because it's great to have a lot of windows and a lot of light, but that means you don't have a lot of wall space to hang things on.
Yeah, and I actually have a client right now that doing a job for him, and he has they did an addition to their house, and it's kind of like I don't know if you call it a living room, it's kind of a family fun room, TV, place to watch, everybody's going to watch football and that kind of thing. But it's a ton of windows, and he has some taxidermy right up, like pedestal mounts and stuff, right up next to the window, and it's faded them.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, they'll be white. Yeah, everything
Yeah.
turns white and it's kind of a mess.
Yeah.
I kind of got that situation right now. I got too many windows in the house and not enough space for taxidermy, but so be it.
In the heart of nature, give your deer the nutrition they deserve with Record Rack Deer Feeds. The premium feeds support antler growth and overall herd health. Whether you're a wildlife enthusiast or a dedicated hunter, Record Rack Deer Feeds provide essential nutrients for a thriving herd. Choose Record Rack Deer Feeds for optimal deer nutrition. Visit recordrack.com to learn more.
So you've been involved with Houston Safari Club for a long time in various capacities. How did you get drawn into the organization, first of all?
I actually have two entries into the club. Okay. One, when I was first just out of college, and Dr. Garrett was a member, and Dr. Garrett took me to a couple of meetings, and I joined for a couple of years, and I was so much younger than the typical crowd was like, everybody's at least 40 or more.
Right.
And I was like, I just didn't, it wasn't my cup of tea at the time. And I certainly wasn't going to Africa or doing any of that stuff at the time. And so years later, in 2006, Kevin Comiskey and I went to Africa on our first African safari together. And we'd both killed really nice blessed bucks, like really long. And when we're sitting over there getting ready for the pictures, and all the PHs were just oohing and ahhing over them, and like, this is like an exceptional animal. And they said, are y'all a member of a hunting club? And like SCI, I was like, well, I was a member of Houston Safari Club. They were like, well, you need to make sure you're a member, and you can put that in the awards, and you might be able to win an award with it. I was like, okay. So then Kevin and I joined about the same time. I think it was 06, 07, somewhere right in there. And then then he got involved with it just a little bit before I did, and then I came on board, and he was doing membership chair, and then I did membership chair for a couple of years, and then both of us we kind of did it together, really. He volunteering in different capacities, and that's how I got started.
Yeah, I mean, you've been involved with finance, you've been involved with membership, you've been involved in the board, you're past president, convention chair. Is there one of those roles that impacted you personally more than others, or has it just all been part of your fiber as you've come up? through the ranks in the organization.
Yeah, it was a real honor to be president. When I was president, probably the biggest honor of all of it was being the Frank Green Award winner a couple years back. That's just a culmination of years of service and just helping the club, and that was probably the most rewarding experience. As I've won J.D. Burroughs, when he was president, gave me the President's Award, and that was very rewarding. But as far as like titles and all that, I have so much fun with it, and it's a lot of, because I've made a lot of friends now in the club that I just love being around it.
Yeah.
Even if I wasn't, president or whatever, I still, like, I volunteered over the weekend.
Yeah.
But the president role is probably the most honorable, and I look back at I was treasurer 2 years in a row at one point in time, and I look back at like the job I did versus the job that J.D. Burroughs does, and it's night and day. He's way better at it than I am.
He's got his formula.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you looking for a smarter way to manage your document imaging and print environment? Dex Imaging delivers industry-leading printers, copiers, and fully managed print services designed to cut cost, boost productivity, and simplify your workflow. Whether you're a small business or a Fortune 500 company, Dex provides personalized local service with the power of a national network so you get fast, reliable support wherever you are. Dex gives back, proudly supporting organizations like Houston Safari Club Foundation by giving through profit sharing. Dex Imaging, smarter technology, exceptional service, proven results. Visit deximaging.com or email Adam Montgomery at adam.montgomery@deximaging.com.
The thing about the lifeblood of organizations like Houston Safari Club are the people that get involved on boards and committees and volunteers. And what advice would you have? Because people are like, well, I went to a couple of monthly meetings. I didn't really meet anybody. So this is your chance to kind of pitch the public on if they don't know anybody in our organization, they want to get involved, kind of to say, hey, what advice would you have for them? Not only just to come to a monthly meeting or convention, but to get engaged because of how it can benefit them as well.
Yeah. I think it's just a matter of people raising their hand and kind of stepping into a role and asking, hey, what can I do? For example, there was a guy last week when convention move-in. I didn't meet him. I heard about him because a couple of people were like impressed with the guy. I think his name was Tom. And I think JD or Tommy or somebody got his information, but he just walked up to the back door and like, hey, how can I help? What can I do? That's, it's almost what it takes is something like that to get involved. And, unless you already know somebody in the club, but if you don't know anybody, we are just as happy to meet you and welcome you as you might be to be able to step up and, we'll make you feel welcome.
Yeah.
We want you, if you're genuinely interested in volunteering and helping the club, man, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, I think
we're just as anxious.
That's a misperception. I think a lot. I think there's two misperceptions that we've started to kind of overcome. I've been around for 12 years now, involved with the organization, and one was it was a niche organization. You had to know somebody, that sort of thing. And I don't think that's the case at all anymore. And we welcome everybody. And then the other thing is people are like, well, I'm not from Houston. I don't go on safari, so what's it got for me? And I think we've started to overcome that a little bit too, where we got members that don't do anything but hunt quail.
Yeah.
In Texas, that sort of thing. So, I mean, if you're listening or watching, we want you to be part of this organization because it's a very cool organization, the fact that we raise money to give it away. But I think that you're absolutely right in your evaluation that now it's not just 30 or 40 people that are meeting. Now it's we've got thousands of members, and that we're inviting and open to just about anybody of any walk of life as long as they love hunting and conservation.
One thing I'm excited about lately with the club is the hiring of Taylor Shell, who's kind of the youth and education piece of it, a person kind of concentrated on that and membership. But I know that she's efforting trying to get some of the scholarship reward or scholarship recipients, back involved.
Yeah.
And that's what it's going to take for for the club in the long term is we got to bring some newer, fresher blood into it, some younger people to keep it going. It's just like a business, you know. If you, like I mentioned earlier, trying to find an older guy that had a business that didn't have anybody to give it to. Same thing here. You know, we need younger people, people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever, to be able to have that next group of leadership within the club. And that's another thing, you know, the Stag and Dove Society, which is the young professionals group that Adam Montgomery and Kyle Clark are kind of leading. It's exciting to see those guys, you know, and they were around all weekend. They were, you know, putting in time and volunteering and doing this and that. And, man, that's all, I mean, we're thankful to have them.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm hoping they can maybe bring in a couple friends and, you know, whatever, to attract some other younger blood. But we're ecstatic to have those guys involved.
Gunworks just launched a new rifle system. It's called Index. It's sized for adventure and engineered for extremes. With barrel lengths as short as 16 inches and a folding stock that collapses to an ultra-short profile, the Gunworks Index fits nicely in a UTV, a float plane, or across the seat of your truck without sacrificing accuracy. The Index features a built-in ARCA and pick rail for use on tripod or bipod, and a night vision rail to ensure you're ready for any scenario. The Gunworks Index delivers magnum capability in the most compact chassis rifle system on the market. Visit gunworks.com to learn more.
Talk a little bit about the Interaction Committee.
So we have the Exhibitor Interaction Committee that I chaired. I had 3 people that came to me and said, "Hey, Kevin, I'd like to help you with that." It's Rebecca Booth, Rudy Nix, and Brian Rennell. And Brian is, of all those, he's the newest member for sure, and he's wanting to get more involved in the club. So this is one way to do it. And so, although he of course he'd hunted with one of the exhibitors, but you know, it was a good chance for him to get in front of exhibitors that he'd never met. A lot of the exhibitors that I was, you know, kind of designated to, I had met, you know, in years previous. But we, you know, there's however many exhibitors, and then so we divided it up, you know, equally. Like, hey, you take these guys and this, and I did it geographically. So I took a map and just kind of the exhibit hall, divided it up. But my personal dealings and some of the feedback I got from the other volunteers was, man, this is great. So we would go by, introduce ourselves to the exhibitor, whether we knew them or not, just say, hey, this is a new committee that we've started this year. Kind of more of a, trying to have more of a personal touch. Have you, that way you have another point of contact,
Right.
other than everybody calling on Joe. You know?
Yeah.
And so that's the first thing everybody does. Well, where's Joe? And so
It helped a lot.
yeah, so we try to alleviate some of that, but you know, they go, you know, for them to leave the booth and go upstairs or wherever to track somebody down to answer a question could cost them money.
Right.
You know, if somebody's looking to book a hunt,
Right.
Whatever they're trying to sell, you know, I think he's a new guy this year, exhibitor, the Canadian waterfowl guy that was on the back row. He donated a hunt.
Duck Creek Outfitters?
Yeah, I think Tony bought a package from anyway, or one of the auctions Tony,
Right.
I think, got. Anyway, you know, he was like, well, I'd go out there, but I'm afraid to leave the booth, man. He goes, I could sell one to the next guy coming. You know, you never know.
Yeah.
So I think it helped for us to go and seek them out, tell them, hey, we're here. You know, if you need something, flag us down, holler at us, whatever you got to do. And if I'm not around, any of the staff members know how to know where I'm typically either know where I am or how to get a hold of me.
Yeah.
And some of them, you know, they wanted my number. I gave them my number, no problem.
I think it made a big difference because we kind of did a spin through on Sunday afternoon. You know, we were figuring out whether we're going to have to close down the show early for threat of ice, and luckily we didn't. But there were quite a few comments about you guys and your team, about how people like, you guys are spoiling us. You know, I mean, it's just, this is great. You know, for first time doing it, it's definitely something we'll continue. Like you said, we need to get more people on that committee, just to be able to cover everyone and give a little more personal attention, because you know, you get locked in a booth, they got questions, what are the dates next year, can I sign up for a booth now,
Yeah.
you know, that sort of thing. So I personally could tell it made a huge difference, just in the lack of requests for, like you said, where's Joe, I need him to address this. and getting pulled, up and down, upstairs and downstairs. As an organization as a whole, what do you believe that Houston Safari Club and its convention, what are your beliefs about why we're so critical to the future of conservation? It could be, and there are a lot of organizations similar to ours, from Species Specific, Ducks Unlimited, that sort of thing, but what are your thoughts on why organizations such as ours are so critical to the future of hunting?
Well, it starts with the mission statement, some of the efforts from conservation, education, hunters' rights, those three pillars that we fund every year. There's other organizations out there doing the same thing. We just try to do it more focused and maybe better. Our scholarship program is second to none. I could be wrong, but I think we've given more scholarship dollars than even the bigger clubs have.
Yeah.
I just, being from here and hunting and the way I grew up, man, there's nothing more than I want to see, and it doesn't have to be my child. It could be anyone's kid, that I would just love to see them grow up doing this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a child. It can be an adult. So like I mentioned to Adam and Kyle earlier, they've hunted, and but we had Jameson Smith and I hosted them out at our deer lease, the Stag and Dove, with three of them, and Andrew Garay was the third one. We hosted them out there because I thought, that'd be a lot of fun and a good talking point for those guys who are trying to recruit friends. Hey, a couple members invited us. We had a blast. They helped us with our doe, killing some does back in October. They each killed a couple of doe. They all got pigs, I think. They just had a ball out there.
Yeah.
But it's always just kind of passing it on to the next generation has always been my passion. And I think even my president year, the tagline for the weekend was, I think it was passing it on or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like that.
This episode of the Hunting Matters podcast is brought to you by B&B Taxidermy. Since 1983, the Baird family at B&B Taxidermy have been the premier experts in trophy mounts. Whether it's African, North American, global, or exotic, B&B Taxidermy will provide design, artistry, and attention to detail that you won't find anywhere else. B&B Taxidermy can also design and decorate your trophy room, showcase, or office with custom dioramas built to suit your space. Check out their showroom of exotic trophies on Jones Road in Houston, or visit their website at bbtaxidermy.com. B&B Taxidermy, proud supporters of the Hunting Matters podcast and Houston Safari Club Foundation. Yeah, that's always been a big focus, for the organizations to try to find that next generation of people, because, we're not always going to be here. We got to have people that fill our shoes and leadership and the committees and the board and that sort of thing. So, and if the other thing too is, I think is really cool about the organization is there's a pretty diverse mix of people on the board. Women, we've got 2 women on the board right now that are active board members. 3 now. Female past presidents. You've got some younger people that are on the board, younger people that are on the volunteer, that are chairing the volunteer committees and that sort of thing. And I know you would never say this, so I'm going to say it for you. You have supported this organization financially as well as your commitment of time. Why is that important to you to give back both? You've obviously given enough time to where you go like, every year I'm doing something on something, but you also, reach in and sponsor gazelles and sponsor different activities and organizations within the organization.
It probably starts with it's hard to tell Mitzi McCorvey no.
True. Yeah.
So, no, but it just, I guess it's probably just because it means that much to me.
Yeah.
Is why I support the club.
Yeah. When you look back years from now, and we've talked about Tommy Morrison before. I got to have him on this podcast, because
he'd be a good one.
It'll be 2 hours. So Tommy, for those of you guys who don't know, Tommy Morrison is a 3-time past president of Houston Safari Club. He was one of the early members. But Tommy's the guy behind the Frank Green Award. But when you're in the Tommy Morrison era of your life, what do you want what would be your legacy or your image? Somebody look back and say Kevin's involvement with Houston Safari Club meant You know, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind in hunting and in this organization?
Oh, I hadn't thought that far ahead.
You got a few years.
Still got some time to go.
Yeah.
You know, just that, you know, I would hope people would say, you know, Kevin was always there for us. You know, is really what it kind of boils down to, I guess, would be my knee-jerk reaction to that. Hey, if we needed something, Kevin was there, you know.
Yep.
Even you know, when I first started with the club and didn't even know all that many people, the Peppers bought a big bronze, or they bought something. I forgot. It was too big to put in either of their vehicles.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'll take it for you. You know, I'll get it, you know, to your house or whatever. And they were like, that's so nice, you know. But I didn't. It just was second nature to offer to do something like that. So it's just little moments like that kind of stick out, you know. It's been a lot of fun. I'll still continue to volunteer in doing what I do, but it's an enjoyable experience.
Yeah. It's still amazing to me how many people, even in the Houston area, are unfamiliar with who we are and what we do. We're trying to get that message out there. So if people are listening or watching the podcast, what advice for them would you have for why they should become a member of our organization?
Well, there's probably a couple different ones, but you know, if you're a hunter and you know at some point in time something's gonna pique your interest that you're gonna want to hunt antelope or in New Mexico or whitetail deer in Texas or ducks in Louisiana, whatever it may be, or something across the, you know, globally, there's always a resource in the club. There's somebody somewhere in the club that has done that before, and that's just a really good place to start and getting referrals and learning about these different trips. And if it's more of a something, say it's an international hunt, you know, one of the questions I always have is, you know, try to find someone that's either been there, had experience with it, and then talk to them about not just the hunt, but like, hey, how'd you get there?
Yeah.
You know, what airline was it?
Yeah.
Did you go through Atlanta? Did you go through New York? Did you drop in, you know, just go through Amsterdam, London, Paris, whatever? I'm just interested to know the routes on how to get there to start with, and then what was the food like, you know?
Yeah.
Who was at the airport to pick you up?
Right. Oh, yeah.
You
Or
know,
was there anybody to
yeah,
pick you up?
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny you say that. I had a couple of my really good friends of mine from A&M, the Pledge brothers of mine. They were down hunting in South Texas somewhere, around Kingsville, I think, maybe Corpus. I don't know where they were exactly, but they were at a gas station, and there were some guys. I think they had like Illinois plates, and they were at the island next to them, and they could tell that my buddies were hunters, and they're like, "Hey, man, do you know where we could kill some javelin?"
Javelin.
Like javelin. You mean javelina? Like, yeah. And they were like, "Man, we came down. We booked a hunt with this guy, and he no-showed us. He could be in Nigeria for all we know." And so a guy, you know, took some money from him. They drove all the way down here from Illinois, Indiana, somewhere up that way. And, you know, but that's one example of things could go wrong.
Yeah.
But if you get a referral, or if you know, that's what's comforting is because you might be going to a different country.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
or you might be driving all the way out to New Mexico or Arizona or somewhere on a hunt, and then to have somebody no-show, woof,
Yeah.
that'd be horrible.
The Houston Safari Club Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that supports the future of hunting and conservation. Wildlife and habitat conservation, youth education and outdoor experiences, scholarships, and anti-poaching efforts are just a few of the programs supported by this organization. Monthly events, an annual convention, award-winning publications, networking opportunities, and valuable resources for hunting knowledge are just a few of the benefits of being a member of Houston Safari Club Foundation. If you're searching for a group of people dedicated to protecting the future of hunting, look no further. Join Houston Safari Club Foundation today at wehuntwegive.org or call 713-623-8844.
We've all been there, and that is definitely an advantage, because I tell the exhibitors too, a lot of times, is that, you know, the first time exhibitor comes, like, well, we met some people, but had a good show. I'm like, And in fact, I heard Tommy Morrison telling the Exhibitor yesterday at breakfast, no, Sunday at breakfast. Well, I don't even know what day of the week it is. It was with the guy was like, well, this is our first year. And Tommy goes, listen, you got to be here at least 5 years and develop relationships. Because next thing you know, Bill tells Bob, Bob tells Steve, Steve tells Ann, and then you've got a whole line of new clients. And Louis Van Bergen, Sparrowhorn Sephora's, is probably one of my favorite examples of that. He came along, 8 years ago maybe, and didn't know anybody. And now he's got a constant stream of referrals coming through this organization. In fact, I asked him this week, I said, so what show are you going to next? He said, we're going home.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah, he just only comes to Houston.
Yeah, so that's been pretty cool. And you're right. It's good to know people, talk to people who've been places and can tell you the secrets behind of the certain things you need to do when you go to certain places in the world and who you need to hunt with and who's reliable, because it's a lot of time, it's a lot of money, and sometimes it's your own safety, that's involved in it.
Yeah.
And you don't definitely want to be in, Kazakhstan with somebody who's going to leave you out stuck in the mountains somewhere.
Yeah. I guess the second part of my answer to that question you had is just meeting the people that are in the club, because, man, it's a lot of fun to talk shop.
Yeah.
I mean, hunters love to tell stories. Yeah. And, I love listening to them just as much as I love telling them. So there's a lot of that too.
Yeah, there's a lot of cameras, phones being held up showing pictures.
Oh, yeah, all weekend. Yeah.
It's crazy. So what's your next hunt? What's your next big hunt you got planned?
Oh, that's a good question. Nothing on the books right now. Now, we are, Kayla's graduating from University of Colorado at Boulder in May from the business school with a finance degree. I'm really proud of her. She's graduating, and we're taking looks like we're going to go to Europe on a European vacation as a family.
Nice.
So that'll probably be the big trip of the year.
Yeah.
But I'm trying.
You can hunt over there too.
I know.
You can hunt red deer and.
Yeah. I've thought about that.
Yeah.
But other than, right now,
Sure.
the here and now is just the deer lease. Probably, hopefully this weekend. I'm going to kind of see how my week goes. Being that both girls are in college, it's a little easier to make a last-minute decision on Thursday whether I'm going to go on Friday morning or not.
Right.
So Jameson mentioned there's some nice axes showing up on camera, and it's weird, those axes in that part of the world where we're west of Junction, but they range so much. Like, we might have them thick for a couple of months,
Right.
and then we won't see one for 2 or 3 months,
Really?
and then they come back, and it's cyclical like that throughout the year.
Yeah.
So that's the next hunting I'm doing. It's just pretty much local stuff.
Be interesting, from the scientific standpoint, it'd be interesting to tag. I wonder if anybody has ever tagged axis and found out exactly what their range is when they have open areas.
Man, that'd be a good scholarship
Yeah.
question, kid, to see if they do that.
That would definitely be good.
But I did talk to one of the Spanish outfitters, Bruno Rosic. Cheryl and I went and talked to him, because that's some type of a European hunt would probably be my next one.
Yeah.
Nothing on the books right now, but
Right.
that's what I'm interested in.
Turkey hunter?
Am I a turkey hunter? I do go spring turkey hunting.
Got that coming in the spring.
Oh, that is, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, he'll
Yeah.
be here before we know it.
Yeah. So my goal is in life, and whether I get there or not. So I've gone to Africa 3 times. I've been to South America twice. If I'd kind of divvied it up, my goal is to hunt 5 continents.
Okay.
And Europe would be just kind of the logical 4th one, and then try to work in an Asia hunt, after that or something to get 5.
Yeah.
But I've
You
got
done
these.
Australia, New Zealand.
I've not been there. I killed a really nice red stag in Argentina this last April, and that took away a little bit of steam because he was such a good one.
Yeah.
He's right there with the good ones in New Zealand. So one day I'm sure we'll go just from taking the wife kind of perspective.
Right.
But hunt tar and chamois and
Yeah.
maybe something else.
Yeah. Got biggest fallow I've ever seen over there, and the Aura Power sheep are huge.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. Yeah, and you guys would love that. You guys would love that. Well, Kevin, appreciate you being here today. Kevin Ormston, HSCF past president and our current convention exhibitor interaction committee chairperson, and also the owner of Rummel Creek Builders and Pools. So check them out at Rummel Creek Pools. That's RUMMELCREEK Pools.com and RummelCreekBuilders.com. And of course, they have social media as well. Kevin, we really appreciate you taking time.
Thank
out
you
of
for
your
having
schedule to
me.
be here. And folks, I guess we will see you next time on Hunting Matters, brought to you by the Houston Safari Club Foundation. Have a great week and stay safe.
Hunting Matters is a Houston Safari Club Foundation production. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. For questions or more information, email us at info@wehuntwegive.org.